This is a demonstration showing how to work with multiple formats, databases, and more. It is part of the SpatialXL 3D Foundation course and can also be used as a demonstration video to show functionality of SpatialXL. In the worksheet that I've got particular measurements that was done on mine shafts, and I'd like to add these to SpatialXL. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to simply say add Excel layer, and for now I'll take the default styling. Let me just bring my view to the top and zoom fit, and here are all of the measurements that I've done. Just a few items on this. Let's just change the styling a little bit by going into properties. I'm going to make the point thickness 3. I can see them better, and I can also turn on text labels. So there are measurements that's been done on my workings in mining. Now I can also apply a theme to this, and I can theme on, for instance, footwall underbreak, and do a best fit, and it'll show me the underbreaks on my data in different colors. So when you zoom in, you can see these colors represent the different values. I'm just going to make my point slightly thicker to even show more. Now you can also go between the worksheet and Excel by going to Inspector, and I've selected that particular point. I can highlight that little pink area over here, and I can also select it back in my worksheet. In the same way, you can go from the worksheet. I can select a whole bunch of records, or even just one. Zoom selected, highlight selected. Let me just change my highlighted color to yellow. For them to stand out a bit more, and the thickness as well. And now you can see which ones have been selected from the worksheet. So there's a very good interaction between Excel and SpatialXL. I can also filter by saying, for instance, the measure value must be greater than 100. For saying, for instance, that the measure value must be greater than 200. And you can see that a lot of these different fields have been filtered out. To clear my filter, you just go to Data and Clear, and that will clear out filters. Let's filter on another field, and you can immediately see how the filter is applied. Now I'd like to see the workings where this data came from, and to do that I can simply drag in my DXF file, which is created in another system, workareas.dxf. I can set my styling for this as well. I'll choose grey with a thickness of 1, little border, and there you can see my different workings. And if you zoom fit, you will see all of the data. Now I'd like to relate this data to my mine boundaries as well. So I'm just going to drag this underneath my workbook containing layer so that everything will be saved with that. And now I'd also like to just set my projection correctly, because this data is actually in Hyperbear's hook, and when I start bringing in other data, I'd like it to project correctly to the scene projection. So before we continue, let's go and just set my scene projection for my Excel layer, which are my measurements. to how to best hook, LO 27, and we'll do the same for my work areas as well. Now when I zoom to fit all data, this is reprojected properly in World Mercator, but it has the correct projections for each layer. Now what I can also do is to bring in the mine boundaries, which is in a shapefile, and that you simply drag and drop. And as you can see here, there is no PRJ file. If there was one, we could have used it and it would have automatically set the projection, but we can still create the projection in the layer to get the layer in the right place. It's overlaying my other data, but we can just drag it down. And then you will see that the mine boundaries are now underneath my other data. I just wanted to make them semi-transparent. And change the color. And we can also give it some borders. And now we might even drag it up to be just above work areas, since work areas are actually underground, and it should probably be underneath the mine boundary, which is surface data. So the layers draw in the order that they are placed here. So mine boundaries will be on top, then the XL layer, which I can just rename to be measurements. And then the work areas underneath. We can also turn on text labels here, like in, for instance, the mine area, and all the names of the particular mining areas will appear. To change the look and feel of the text, you can go into your properties again for mine boundaries, to text, positioning to the middle of the particular item, give it maybe a little border, background color that is white and maybe a little bit transparent, and a little border width of 1. The look and feel of the labels are different now. We can even bring in more data now from a database by just going add layer, and in here I'm going to choose my loader as being SQL Server. I'll use integrated security, and the database that I want to use is MiningGIS. Testing my connection, it's successful. And I will use my query builder to see what data I've got. I think the data that I'd like to show on the surface is buildings, to see what buildings fall overhead from the workings underground. And I will just select all of the buildings to come through. If I execute, I will see these are all the buildings that will come through, and I can simply see OK, and you can see here's the command that will actually run in the database. Now again, these are not projected yet, so they will be sitting at a different spot. So what I'll do is I will go into my properties, change the name of the layer to buildings, and then the styling, I'll make the buildings a nice orange color, give them some borders, and change the projection by adding the RTBS hook LO27 projection. And now you can see all the buildings appearing in the correct place. If these buildings happen to come from another projection, you could have just added it there and it would have transformed on the fly to the World Mercator projection system. And to see these working together, you can see here the underground workings appearing with the buildings on the surface at the same time. I can also change the view of this by saying view from above current view, and here you can see the surface with the underground workings underneath. You can also rotate this if you want to see it in more detail by making sure that you are somewhere on a particular item. Control key, left mouse button, and drag very slowly to rotate. And there you can see your underground workings appearing underneath your mining areas and with buildings above. Now, one last thing I can do, where I will be able to really look at my data with regards to the overall map, is I can add Bing maps, which are similar to Google Maps, by simply going add sublayer on my workbook containing layer, choose Bing maps, satellite is fine, and say OK. Now they are appearing above the data there, so I'm just going to move this layer by dragging it down underneath my last layer. And there all the data appears above Bing Maps. So now I can see in which area of South Africa this mine actually lies. If I turn my workings off, I can see it properly. So there you can see it in relationship to the actual map. That is the end of this demonstration. Thank you very much.